There is a pattern that some people live inside for years before they ever name it. They look around at the relationships in their life, the friendships, the romantic partnerships, the people who seem to find them no matter where they go, and they notice something. The people who are drawn to them are almost always carrying something heavy, a wound that hasn't healed, a situation that keeps collapsing, a version of themselves they are always on the verge of becoming but never quite arriving at. And the person at the center of this pattern, the one everyone gravitates toward, keeps showing up, keeps listening, keeps offering the thing they have always instinctively known how to offer. Until one day they realize, quietly, that they are exhausted in a way they cannot explain to anyone, and that the people they have poured themselves into have not, in most cases, actually been saved. Psychology has a precise account of why this happens, and it begins not with a flaw in character, but with something that was built into you early, something that was, at the time it was built, entirely necessary. The first sign is that you can feel someone's pain before they have spoken a word of it. You walk into a room and you already know who is not okay. Something in how they are holding their body, something in the quality of their stillness or the specific frequency of their laughter. You are picking up signals that most people are not calibrated to receive, because your nervous system was trained early to detect emotional distress accurately and quickly. This was not a choice. It was a survival adaptation built in environments where reading the emotional state of the people around you was not optional, and now it runs automatically, in every room, with every person. You feel the pain in people who have not told you about it yet, and something in you moves toward it. The second sign is that when someone is struggling, you experience an almost physical pull toward helping them. Not a feeling of obligation exactly. Something more visceral than that. Something that arrives before any conscious decision is made. This pull is the direct product of a nervous system that learned early to associate helping with safety. In the environment that built you, managing the emotional states of others, keeping the peace, offering comfort, being the one who made things better. These were not generous choices. They were regulatory strategies, ways of reducing the unpredictability that felt threatening, and the association between helping and safety was encoded so deeply and so early that it now operates as instinct. You do not decide to move toward people in pain. You simply find yourself there. The third sign is that broken people find you with a consistency that cannot be coincidental. They sit next to you on public transport and tell you things they have never told anyone. They appear in your professional life and slowly reveal the private disasters underneath the professional surface. They come into your social circle and within weeks have identified you as the person they need. This is not random, and it is not just about you being kind. People in significant pain are, often unconsciously, highly skilled at detecting the specific qualities that indicate someone will receive them without judgment, will not be overwhelmed by the weight of what they carry, and will not leave when things become genuinely difficult. When you have those qualities, they were built by experience, and they are visible to people who know what to look for, even when they are not consciously looking. The fourth sign is that you consistently find yourself in relationships where the emotional labor is asymmetrical. You listen more than you are listened to. You remember the details of other people's struggles and check in on them. You hold space for grief and anger and confusion and fear, sometimes for extended periods, sometimes for people who do not return the quality of attention you offer them. This asymmetry did not begin as something you chose. It began as something familiar. The relational template built in your early life included a version of connection in which your role was to attend to another person's emotional world more than your own needs were attended to. And you have been replicating the familiar structure of that template in relationship after relationship without necessarily understanding that this is what you are doing. The fifth sign is that you are extraordinarily skilled at seeing the potential in people that they cannot yet see in themselves. You look at someone who is genuinely struggling, and you see, clearly and with real conviction, who they could become, what they are capable of. The version of themselves that is waiting on the other side of the work they haven't yet done. This vision is a gift, It is also, in the specific relational pattern we are examining, sometimes a problem. Because you can become so invested in the person someone could be that you extend yourself far beyond what the person they currently are has demonstrated they can receive. You are, in a sense, in a relationship with a potential, and potential, unlike a person, never disappoints you by being exactly as limited as it actually is. If this is landing somewhere precise, somewhere that recognition feels like the beginning of something rather than just the confirmation of something you already knew, stay here. This channel is committed to giving the psychological language to the patterns people live inside without understanding. Subscribe if you haven't already, because what comes next is the part of this pattern that goes deepest, the part about what it costs and why it keeps recurring. The sixth sign is that you struggle to maintain boundaries with people who are in visible pain, not because you do not understand boundaries conceptually, but because when someone is suffering in front of you, something in your nervous system treats the maintenance of the boundary as a form of cruelty that it is not able to tolerate. You know you should not answer the message at midnight. You know you have already given what you realistically had to give. And then you see the pain, and the boundary dissolves. Not out of weakness, out of a hyper-empathy, so thoroughly trained that it has made the discomfort of another person almost indistinguishable from a threat to your own nervous system. Their distress activates you in a way that staying boundaried does not resolve. And so, you cross the line, again, and call it love. The seventh sign is that being needed has become intertwined with feeling valued in a way that is difficult to separate. Somewhere in your developmental history, the experience of being useful to another person became one of the primary ways you understood yourself to matter, and so people who need you do not merely trigger your empathy. They also activate something deeper, a sense of purpose, of relevance, of being someone whose presence makes a measurable difference in another person's life. This is not vanity. It is the understandable outcome of a childhood in which mattering was conditional on performing a function, and it creates a vulnerability that broken people, even without meaning to, are very effective at reaching. The eighth sign is that you often feel responsible for outcomes that are genuinely not in your control. When someone you have been supporting makes a choice that sets them back, something in you catalogs what you could have done differently, what you failed to say, what you should have seen coming. This sense of responsibility is not rational, and you probably know that, but it operates below rationality, in the place where your nervous system still holds the old belief that if you had just done the right thing at the right moment, the outcome would have been different, that the people around you were manageable, if only you had managed them correctly. This belief was built in a context where it had some functional basis, and it has followed you into every relationship since. The ninth sign is that you have a high tolerance for inconsistency in the people you care about. You make allowances, you contextualize. You understand why someone did the thing they did, in terms that allow you to continue offering them the same quality of care and presence even after they have demonstrated something that should have moved you toward distance. This tolerance is not foolishness. It is the product of growing up in environments where the people you depended on were inconsistent and where your survival required you to find a way to remain emotionally connected to them anyway. You became extraordinarily skilled at the psychological work of maintaining connection with people who are not consistently safe, and you have been practicing that skill in your adult relationships ever since. And the 10th sign, the one that makes this pattern so difficult to see from the inside, is that none of this feels like a pattern. It feels like who you are. Empathy feels like values. The pull toward helping feels like love. The tolerance for inconsistency feels like loyalty. The inability to hold boundaries with suffering people feels like compassion. And all of these things are real. The empathy is genuine. The love is genuine. Compassion is genuine. What is also true is that they are organized around a wound. Around the early experience of a child who learned that other people's emotional worlds were their responsibility, who learned that connection had to be earned through service, who learned that their own needs were secondary to the needs of the people around them, and who built, out of all of that, a form of intelligence that is genuinely extraordinary, and that has also, without anyone meaning it to, become the thing that keeps drawing them back into the same relational dynamic, wearing different faces. Here is what psychology ultimately wants to say about this. The traumatic intelligence you carry is real. The perceptiveness, the empathy, the capacity to hold people through genuine difficulty, these are not small things. They are among the rarest and most valuable qualities a person can bring into another person's life. The question psychology is asking is not whether these qualities are real. It is whether you are also bringing them to yourself. Whether the person in your life who most deserves the quality of attention and care and presence you offer so readily to broken people is also receiving it. Whether you have ever been fully seen and held and stayed with, not because you were useful, but simply because you were there. That is not a question you have to answer today, but it is the right question. And the fact that you are here suggests some part of you already knows it. Hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.